Welcome to a new episode of Manage to Retain, where I talk about issues around business for employees, your customers, recruiting, retention, productivity, and profitability. And I do it with my friends, Sherri and Lou. Listen in, you might get a few tips here on how to do leadership better in your business. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Manage to Retain. My name is Vinay Raman. I'm the CEO of Carmo, and we're a company that takes data and decodes human and organizational behavior using the same data. But lots of times businesses have all this data, they don't know data and don't know what to do with it. And that's what we do as a company is we help them decode that so they can figure out what to do. But sometimes it's not just about the data. It's about understanding how to shift the culture and how, as a leader, you can be more effective. And that's why I do this with my friends, Sherri and Lou. Sherri and Lou, how are you all doing today?
Doing excellent, Vinay. Nice to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you all too. So I want to dig into that a little bit because I'll tell you, let me talk about myself first because I know a lot about me, more than probably anybody else in the world. And that is, I have had some royal screw-ups in my life as being a manager. And I call them lessons learned as opposed to screw-ups. They were all on a pathway to getting better. But gosh, sometimes I wish I could have seen it a little bit faster or a little bit sooner as opposed to having made a royal mess of things. And lots of times it ended up being with employees. I had employees or people that were working for me or I was working alongside of. I was trying to get them to step up to the next level of performance, and I didn't know how to do it sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sherri and Lou, you work with leaders all the time. Has that problem ever popped up for anyone else?
Not you're the only one, actually.
No, never.
No, that is absolutely. I mean, we've all been there, and I will be the first one, just like you. And I'm so glad that you're transparent like that because that's realism right there. I'm the same way. I believe that over the years, if we allow ourselves to grow, we can grow. But I certainly have failed miserably in the past as a leader, especially as I was learning to be a successful leader. But of course, the sooner you begin to catch what you need to change, the better. Otherwise, you just kind of wallow around and thinking that you're doing a good job when in actuality you're doing more damage.
Well, I think there's something else I've learned along the way here in all those things, all those experiences, good and or bad, was just this idea that do it the first time. Okay, that's all right. I mean, I don't know what that George Bush said that once in one of his speeches, and I think he flubbed the saying, but fool me once, all right, fool me twice, something else, and fool me three times, and I think he got stuck there. But the point being is you don't want to keep making that same mistake over and over. And if you can find a tool or a process that'll prevent you from hopefully making that same mistake over and over again, I think that's a wonderful thing to have, a wonderful utility. And part of what I think I'd like to discuss today is, so we've built a tool that shows you some of that. And I'd like, Sherri and Lou, I'd love for you to put that into the words of how somebody can translate that into action in the organization as being a more effective leader. Is that a fair way to set this up?
Yeah, I love it. Let's do it.
So for anyone who has not seen one of our shows before, we're going to show you a graph that comes based on real data from an organization. This is actual live data. We just happened to change the names. And what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you through a graph that shows you how someone has been behaving in their role. Not behavior as in a bad thing, as in what actions they continue to take. But it kind of starts to build a dilemma for that leader as to what do I do next? So let me start by sharing my screen so you can start to see what we're talking about and the dilemma as to what to do next. All right, you should be seeing my screen here.
Sure do.
All right, so let me orient you real quick for those who haven't seen it before and those joining us again. Thanks for coming back. So there's a company that has a couple of different branches. This is the Phoenix branch, and they've got a technician in this case named Andrew M. And this is for the whole year that we have year to date, all the data. The average person in this particular role that Andrew is also serving in has got on a score of 1 to 100, has got a 52. Andrew's got a 48. So just a touch below what the average person is. And this breaks it down as to how we came up with that score of a 48. So in driver behavior, how they drive the vehicle that they use, their service vehicle, there's many, many dimensions. I think there's about 10 different dimensions of data and metrics that we pull in there. Efficiency, what their employee experience is. Do they enjoy working for the company? And I think there's 10 questions there. Their net promoter score, their customer service, their skills assessment. This is a self-assessment of their mastery in various skill areas. And their tech referrals. This is basically their ability to sell jobs to existing customers or show them that there's other things that they can provide or invite them into also enjoying. Now, if you look at this graph, that 52 is this gray area, and this blue is how Andrew's performing. I want to stop there for a second. Lou and Sherri, you see Andrew M as the blue compared to the gray. What thoughts come to mind here in terms of how Andrew is as an employee? What would you guess?
Well, he's average. He's just below the average there, and which, interestingly enough, to me, there's definitely going to be some addressing that needs to be done as a whole, because 52 as an average is a pretty tough number. To really, where is an employee really going to go when the average is a 52? Mm-hmm. So there's some work to be done there. But for this particular employee, what I see here is that there's not a ton of work that has to be done. I think there's a lot of awareness that has to be done, but we need to understand what this impact is. Like in his employee experience, I believe it starts there.
Yeah,
that's where I believe this starts.
So I mean, if I translate that into other terms, I'm seeing kind of like a B-level employee here, right? Someone who's kind of right in the thick of it. They're probably adding some value to the company. They're not a high flyer, but they're also not kind of dragging the company down either. But there's some areas. So if you think about this, light graph lines out here, you want your employee to be on the outside edge. The bigger the blue area, the better. So this person is doing better in these areas of skills assessment and their net promoter score than the average employee, and also in driver behavior, but they're doing a little less than average in these areas. So kind of averages out to where they're just slightly below average. Mm-hmm. So I would say maybe like a B employee, maybe a C employee, somewhere in that kind of range. Mm-hmm. So their ability to sell jobs as an employee is lower than average. Their employee experience is lower than average, and their efficiency as a technician or a service person in this case are below average. Sherri and Lou, as a leader, what kind of conversation do you have with this person, or what would you think that most people were going to have as a conversation with this person?
Well, that's definitely two different questions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the conversation that we normally would have, that we hear a lot of when we say, what kind of conversation did you have with Andrew? Well, we sat him down and wanted to find out what was it because he was off last week? Why is he not moving? How come he's only seeing a certain amount of our clients, and why are his sales numbers down? And
well, it's the only focus on the opportunities,
right?
And it wasn't a well-rounded conversation. Usually,
right? Usually it's about the bottom line. Yeah, right. It's always about the bottom line, which it's important for us as leaders. But how important and how can we get our Andrew as an example to understand that? That's usually how it goes. How it should go, on the other hand, is the first thing now, me learning through my failures, as mentioned, Vinay, over the years, is the first thing I'm going to look at is the employee experience. Well, let me find out from Andrew how he's feeling about what he's doing. I don't think, from looking at this, I don't think Andrew's bought in.
Yeah.
If he was bought in, then he wouldn't have any trouble referring. He would have no problem selling because he believes in the product or service. If he believes in a product or service, then his efficiency would be really good because he tried to find a way to get better. He's not trying to find a way to get better because his employee experience is mediocre. That's where I'd begin to identify how he's feeling and what is it about his current role that he's challenged with, and what he likes and what he doesn't like about what he's doing.
So I want to translate that real quick, or say that back to you in other words, just to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying. As opposed to the conversation, which is what I think I used to do, is I used to immediately go at, all right, well, we need to get your numbers up, we need to get your efficiency up, and how are we going to do that? We're now saying, so, hey, so how are things going for you in this role right now? And where can I provide you some support so that I can kind of lift you as opposed to just kind of dragging you to the next level, right? Yeah. Is that a fair way to summarize
No, I
it?
definitely think it's fair, and even a step further, digging in is what, how are you feeling about what you're doing? Like, how do you feel about our company?
So I feel like I get the sense that a lot of people think this is squishy talk that has a lot of kumbaya hugs and kisses, and everybody's supposed to have birthday parties and everything like that all the time. And it's not, right? There are actual numbers behind this. So this is actually a compilation. This right here, since the beginning of the year, I mean, we're 9 months in now. Is probably about 15,000 rows of data across many spreadsheets. So this is not just something that we just stuck our finger up in there and said, all right, this is what the graph looks like. Because Andrew versus here, let's pick Danielle. I picked her for a purpose. You can see she's got some different areas that she needs help. Tech referring is where she's even a little bit weaker than Andrew was, but she's a little bit stronger in these two areas. But she's also stronger in these areas compared to Andrew as well. Each individual's got their own set of needs, and they've got their own series of strengths. So conversations are different. So what I want to show next here, Sherri and Lou, is this idea that we can take a look at each individual based on the data and figure out what really are the knobs, levers, and dials that gets them to the next level. All right. So I'm actually going to hop over here and show you.
And if I may, I want to add, you know, how you were saying that, like, asking the individual, right? Like, hey, what's going on? Or how can I help you? Right. And I've been on the flip side of that. But here's the thing, like, I think that's good, but we got to remember that managers and leaders, in theory, and they should, is have a different level of awareness than you do as far as the employee is concerned. I've been on both sides now, and I've been on that where the manager's looking at me going, I know you're frustrated. How can I help you? I'm like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what
I would be in your shoes if
know.
I did.
Yeah,
That's
like,
right.
I know I have an issue,
right.
but my level of awareness is just not your level of awareness.
Right.
So I guess getting back, and it ties in to these type of charts and graphs, even though it seems, it can be overwhelming, but Vinay has a way to break this down. So it is everybody's awareness, if that makes sense. So therefore there is no, hey, I don't know what I don't know. Well, here's some information for you then.
Yeah, it's a good point. We've talked to people, and some of the words that they use is shared reality, right? There's a shared reality now that both of us look at that graph and say, yeah, that makes sense to me. It's kind of like taking that personality test where it gives you sort of the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, and you say, how does someone know so much about me? Right? Being able to take a look at this because it's actually based on them. It shows you what is actually performing and how you perform compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
And to transition to this, what we've done is we've actually taken all those different dimensions that you saw, all those 6 dimensions, driver behavior, efficiency, employee experience, so on and so forth. We mapped them against each other to show how they kind of correlate to each other in strength. As in, if I drive faster, my chance of getting into an accident also goes up as well.
Yeah.
If I drive slower, my chance of getting into an accident goes down as well, because those are directly correlated. Now, I do want to say that correlation does not mean causation. As a general statistical truth. But as we look at each individual, anything that is a 0.5 or better in terms of correlation is a strong correlation. So let's take a look at, we were looking at Andrew. Let's look at Danielle, that second graph. And we can start to look through here, and we see that the efficiency of Danielle has got a 0.63 on a scale of 0 to 1, right? To driver behavior. So their efficiency is highly related to their driver behavior. So if you're giving them too much work to do, their driver behavior, the number of harsh accelerations, braking, idling time, speeding is going to start to go up as well, because you're giving them too much to do. So you want to create, you keep saying, hey, I need you to drive better, but I need you to work harder. There's a direct correlation here that if you give more work to Danielle, she's also going to have more driving events, or risky driving events. You might be pushing too hard. If we keep exploring here, we see that the skills assessment has a 0.94, which is a very, very strong correlation with employee experience. So they feel, in this case, Danielle feels really, really good about herself because she's got mastery of her skills. I mean, does that feel like a new piece of advice there, or is that something that's kind of been timeless? If we've given people the skills and the tools, we've equipped them to use one of the principles that you all have, right? We've equipped them, then they can feel good about themselves. Is that a fair way to say that?
100% agree. They'll feel good about themselves. They'll be willing to share, and they're gonna perform at a high level, and not just one area, as we're seeing here. It correlates to 3.
Their ability to sell jobs, their tech referring has got a strong correlation to their employee experience. They feel good about themselves, they're going to sell more jobs. If they have their tech referring, their tech referring is high when their skills assessment. So if they feel a level of mastery, they're also going to refer jobs. So I'm starting to see that there's a lot tied into the employee experience. If you want to unlock Danielle, get her to the next level. I'm not saying make her feel good because it's touchy, squishy, feely, kumbaya, everyone hugs and kisses. It's because it actually is what makes her do better.
Right.
Get results. How does that sit with you all? Does that make sense?
Well, I can't argue with the numbers.
And for sake of time, I'm actually not going to go through another person, but I just wanted to expose this, that there's a lot of truth to what have been said for a long time, and people have had a felt sense. There's an assessment, Sherri and Lou, that you all have that will help managers and leaders and employees find out how well they're doing. I suggest we put that out here in the links so that people can take that assessment and they can come and ask you how they can not only maybe get some of this data themselves, but also understand who are the employees that are kind of at risk or not enjoying their experience at work. Is that fair?
I think it's a great idea. Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Let's wrap up real quick. Takeaways for employees, employers, leaders who are looking at this. Are there 1 or 2 kind of principles or takeaways that you would give them in terms of how they could see all this stuff, what's happening to the employees, and how they can shift to that next level of leadership?
Yeah, I think this narrows it right down to the mindset principle. We have 10 principles that every leader must follow to lead with influence, and one of those is the mindset principle. And what our mindset principle states is what you think you are. Okay, what you think you are. So this is a shift, right? We've got to shift and pivot our thinking and our mind, our set thinking and patterns in our mind to look at numbers different, to look at things different. We just because me, myself, or you as a leader might be like, I'm not the hoorah Pollyanna kind of cheerleader of a leader. That's okay. But that doesn't mean that the numbers are going to lie. Just because you're not that way does not mean that that's not a good way to lead. So take a look at that and review that and understand your experiences and how that really truly affects how you are as a leader. If you look at that and you don't make any changes, do you really think that your employees are going to make changes? They're not going to, right? You've got to do that first. Every day you are who you are, and you're influencing people in a very different way. So think about that. It's a very, very powerful position to be in, to be able to impact people on an everyday basis. So your mindset's a crucial part of becoming a successful leader, and this is a good way to begin. That's to transition your thinking on how to look at numbers and how to look at your employees in a way that's not just going to be getting the numbers done, hitting the bottom line, but be sustainable and have long-term effects on your employees and your business. So shift your mindset internally first. That's right. And then you'll start to see the external manifestation of it. That's right. For all those who listen in, thank you for taking some time to listen. Hopefully you got a snapshot of how you can use tools as a leader to be more effective. And the team that is Sherri and Lou who will help you coach you through that process and guide you through that process. I'll give you the data. I'll use your data to help you find out where you can start to improve the process. Mm-hmm. And for anybody who is joining us for the first time, those who've joined us again, thank you. But Sherri and Lou, as always, thanks so much for the time. Thank you again, Vinay. All right, take care.